he's found a way to create Bitcoin yield for his investors in his stock. You buy his stock and you hold it, and you're going to get more Bitcoin per share as, you know, in the life of holding that stock. It's trading. If you take all the shares and you multiply them out, you know, and then you take all the underlying Bitcoin and you get to that value, well, the shares are trading at somewhere around 1.7 to 1.8 times that underlying value of the Bitcoin. It's getting a multiple premium, right? And the reason for that is because Michael's doing a few things here, right? So the first thing he's doing is he's borrowing money through convertible bonds, and he borrows money, issues these converts, and then takes that capital he gets for that and buys Bitcoin with it. So, but the key here is that he's buying that Bitcoin and attaching that underlying Bitcoin value to his stock. It makes his stock volatile. So he's not. So typically, when your stock is volatile, it's often because you're just a high flying tech, or you have illiquidity in your stock. But for him, for MicroStrategy, it's volatile because the underlying asset that it anchored to is volatile, which is Bitcoin. So, but that's good for the convertible bond buyers. Why is that? Because, well, Bitcoin is volatile, but as we said earlier in the show, it's volatile to the upside, right? And so because of that, this gives optionality to the buyers. It's convertible into stock. So that optionality is that they can trade around it. They can short some MicroStrategy around it and trade around. It's called delta hedging, and trade around that amount that they're delta hedged because of the volatility of the stock. That's one thing they can do. But really, the second thing they do is they can eventually convert that bond into stock, into common stock, and they'll get common stock for it at a premium. So they're able to do that. The stock will go through the price, the strike price of that convert, and they're able to convert at a great gain. And so you're seeing those converts are all trading above where they were sold because of this. And so, and because of that optionality, that value that they're getting by buying that optionality, he's able to borrow at near 0% financing. So the last bond that he just issued was $3 billion, and it was at 0% yield. So the interest rate on that was 0% because he had a 55% premium to the stock price on the convert. And so that created this ability to borrow that money pretty much for free. And so he's borrowed $7.2 trillion at less than 0.8%. I mean, like it's well under 1% that he's borrowing that for. So his underlying business of his software business that he runs in MicroStrategy is paying for those bonds, no problem. And so this is the amazing thing he's found. So as he borrows money, he buys Bitcoin, his shareholders get more Bitcoin. So the second thing that it creates, because of that, his stock is trading at a premium to the underlying Bitcoin because people expect to get more Bitcoin, right, as they hold stock in the future. Well, because of that, he's able to use something called the ATM at the market. The ATM is he goes to the ATM and he issues shares and he gets money, basically, right? So he goes into the market and he sells shares at the market. He gets money and he turns around and he buys Bitcoin with it. Now, normally, when you issue shares, you're diluting underlying shareholders. And so it's usually a dilutive transaction where unless you can immediately, very quickly create value for your shareholders, then the stock price will go down because there are more shares for the same amount of value, same amount of earnings. But in his case, he's taking that money, he's turning around and buying Bitcoin with it. And so the shares actually go up because they're attached to the underlying Bitcoin. They go up by 1.5, 2.5 times the amount that he borrowed. So if he borrows $100 million, goes and buys $100 million of Bitcoin, Then he announces that transaction that he did that, and the stock goes up by 150 or $200 million. So it becomes accretive to his shareholders. It's kind of mind blowing, but that's what's been happening. And that's why it's been a great stock to own for the last, this last year.